Hi, everyone, and welcome to Praxis Makes Perfect,
Hello,
episode 3.
I'm Raul.
I am Amy, and as always, we are happy that you guys are tuning in with us because we have an exciting episode this time.
Welcome.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, what do we have on the agenda today?
Today we're going to be talking about public participation in council meetings, which is also engaging in praxis.
Well, same thing, right? Praxis. It
Yeah.
is, of course, a lot of people. If you're a part of our Facebook group, Praxis Makes Perfect, we know that you have to answer some questions joining our group, and one of them is, what does praxis mean? And a lot of people answered correctly, which is pretty much, putting practice to, or putting theory into actual practice itself.
Yes. Right.
It is a tongue twister.
The word can be a little tricky.
Yes, and tonight's episode is brought to you by a California blend.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yes.
But anyway, so the first thing we're going to talk about is what exactly a city council does, and what makes up a city council.
Yes.
Would you like to lead us into that, Amy?
Sure. So, a city council. When you're looking at the legislative body of your city's government, that's going to be your city council. Now, your city council consists of aldermen, or they can be called councilors. Counselors. They can be called councilors, and they represent your city's different districts. Now, some cities, depending on where you are, sometimes they have districts, sometimes they have boroughs, sometimes I think they're called parishes. Either way, each one has a representative that makes up your city council.
Well, I think parishes are akin to counties, but I may be wrong there.
I don't know. I'll have to Google that one. But pretty much your city is broken down into different sections, and each one of those sections is represented by a city council member.
Yes.
Now, we took a fun poll on Facebook on our Praxis Makes Perfect group, and we saw that some people they don't know who their city council members are, which is okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. Not
totally
everybody
fine.
does.
I couldn't name mine off the top of my head.
You could have said that guy. I could point him out of a line.
I know they're all dudes.
Yeah, they are all dudes.
Which is not
great, but well, at least they're not all white.
But we're trying to change it. This is what this is about.
This is what this is about.
That's what we're trying to do.
So, where was I?
Alderman.
Alderman. Yeah. So, they're the legislative body that makes up your city's government. Now, they are responsible for a few things. They can be responsible for the city's goals, major projects, and the city's infrastructure.
Yes.
And that can consist of anything from community growth to land use, finances, and strategic planning.
However, no matter where the aldermen come from or who the alderman happens to be in the city, every city is governed by a charter, which is essentially the driving document behind what the councilors can and cannot do. Right? This document outlines the scope of what the government does as a whole, including its rules and responsibilities to the citizen, and what powers and checks guide and define the council itself. So the charter itself is the important document that will guide a lot of the decisions that the council can and can't do. Again, just to reiterate.
Now, there is what would be considered a CEO, or Chief Executive Officer of your city.
I don't like the word CEO because it's not.
It's the closest thing that they can come up with.
I think we can come up with a better word, right?
Anyway, it's your mayor. Your mayor has the overall power to approve or veto any legislation that your city council tries to put through. Now, when we say legislation, we mean city ordinances that can affect anything from speed limits to turning your city into a sanctuary city. Those things can be approved or denied by the city council, and then overall signed into ordinance by your city mayor or vetoed by your city mayor.
A city mayor generally acts as the head council, and it enforces its decrees. The city chief, they are the city's chief executive officer, like Amy was saying, and they do have the power to pass or veto any legislation the councilors put through, which makes the mayor's position very important. It kind of brings the body of the city council together.
Yeah. So now that you've taken a minute to maybe go and research who your city council members are, see how your city is broken down into districts and what district you could lie in.
Yeah.
You have to remember that city council members, they're going to do their best to represent their constituents only after they have represented the city as a whole.
Yes.
So first they answer to all the districts, and then they answer to their immediate
to you directly,
district.
Depending if you live within their district.
Yes. All right, so consider, for instance, one part of the city suffers a flood or another part stays high and dry. This is where it can come into instances of what they're going to do when allocating a budget and what a meeting could consist of. Let's say that they got relief money in from the federal government. How is it going to be dispersed throughout the community? That is when you want to go to your public meetings. Now, you want to go to every one of, as many as you can go to, especially if there is an ongoing thing that the city is discussing. One of the things that we need to talk about is how do you know when your city council meeting is?
Well, there are a few ways of finding out when your city council meetings are. One of the ways to find out is by visiting the local.gov website. That usually lists when the meetings are held. And we also have to consider that a lot of these meetings do break up into two specific types of meetings, which brings us to
how we're going to actually engage, which is what our Praxis focuses on today. Is engagement Praxis?
Of course, getting out. If you can afford to take the time off of work, and if you don't have to take care of the kids that night or that afternoon or whenever the council meeting is, definitely it's Praxis to go out there and engage in these public forums and engage in these discussions that the council is having. Because, as I like to tell Amy a lot, is that there is no real distinction between a private sector and the public sector when it comes to government, right? We are essentially the government. She and I, you and I, are both the government, and it is our, for lack of a better word, duty to go out there and engage in these forums. I mean, again, if we can go out there and watch the new Star Wars film, or take the time to watch this video, or even play a video game online, we can take the time to research who our city council members are and engage in these meetings.
Yeah, and you also want to know who your council members are, because not every council member is a decent person. Going back to the example that I was giving you about a city council getting relief fund, there are aldermen, there are council members out there that will try and snatch that money from a different district that actually needs it for the relief.
Yes.
So that is why it's important to know who you're voting for.
Absolutely. And depending on what district you are, it can be they're usually not equally all funded. Though they should be, they're not. And what I mean by funded is where the funds are going distributed equally.
Mm-hmm. So we've covered what the mayor does. We covered what a city council consists of. So now we want to go back to engagement. Now there's two things that you can engage in that involve your city council, and that is a city council meeting, which is what we were explaining earlier, that are usually held once a month, a certain day at a certain time. So It may be the third Thursday at 5 p.m. of every month.
These council meetings have a certain agenda that they abide by.
Yes. So city council meetings, they follow an agenda. Normally, if it's just your average monthly one, if there's nothing major. There's going to be changes in city council meetings depending on if that meeting is touching an especially hot topic, and we're going to come back to that because we want to go over the other major one that you can speak at, which is a public hearing.
Forum.
A public hearing, which is usually based on a single topic. And it's normally the overflow topic if something was especially contentious at a city council
meeting. At a city council meeting.
Mm-hmm. So, what is a public hearing?
A public hearing, as Amy was saying, can arise out of an issue that is generally spoken about during the council meeting. These public meetings are much more concentrated on a specific issue, and they allow for a much more public engagement in the not so much in the decision making, but in the what am I trying to say? In the information that is presented to them in order to try to come to a decision about what the issue may be. And let's try
and it's a time for specifically the public to speak.
Yes, to present your issues.
Because we'll go ahead and let you know right now that not every meeting has a time where the public has the opportunity to speak. Most do have a time set aside on the agenda, which is the time for public participation. One thing to remember with public participation that they may limit the time you have to speak, especially if there's a lot of people there. They may limit how much time you have.
Yes, and that can range anywhere from usually, and I know from our town council meetings, it's usually range depending on the topic. Again, it depends on the topic. It can range anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Now you could have unlimited time if you're the only person at the meeting. And if it's just a normal meeting.
And if you so happen to be the only person that's speaking at this meeting, then you want to make sure that you are knowledgeable on the facts, and you have the facts at hand, and you can reference those facts back to the city council members, because they're going to know what they're talking about for the most part. I mean, a lot of these people have been running in these positions unopposed for a long time, and these people have held positions in the government for a while. Not everyone, like I said, not everyone in the working class can take the initiative and go out there and try to run. But these people have the money. They're being funded by groups that are invested in a lot of these ordinances that are being passed within the city.
Or if the city is annexing land.
Yes, so that's a little.
You have saves in that in public hearings as well. A lot of cities annex land just to grow the size of the city. So it's one of those things where you want to take the time to follow the money and maybe address that if anything arises.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the meeting, so the meeting itself, what it consists of is what's known as the agenda. If it's going to be something that's going to make a particularly contentious meeting where they could have a lot of people who want to speak, a lot of people that are vocal, they may remove things like correcting the minutes, little things like that, just not to try your patience as a person participating in the meeting.
Yes.
If it's a contentious meeting, they may also give people speaker cards. So when you have these speaker cards, they may ask for your name, your address, and I can understand why they want your address. Just
I was a little iffy about it. I don't know about giving out my address.
Yeah, she was saying. It may just be to validate that you are a resident of that community participating. But I would suggest just putting the city, or maybe just the street, not your house number, or just the zip code. Something that just ties you to the city without being anything.
Yeah, or you could just be like, hey, you don't know my life. I don't need to tell you all that.
Yeah, true. You could just.
All right, guys. So, in essence, we want to bring you back to the core of the the presentation here, which is engaging in praxis.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we want to encourage you to get out there and engage in these meetings
Mhm.
because your voice is important.
Remember that these council members know that those meetings are the times that you evaluate their performance, that they're doing their job. So we hope that this is giving you some sort of or some kind of information on what they entail, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable enough to go out and engage in a meeting. And if you do, then definitely leave a comment.
Yes.
Definitely leave a comment, whether if it's in our Facebook group or if it is if it's down here on the comments below. And of course, remember to subscribe and hit the little bell. That way, you'll get notifications whenever we do updates on our channel.
And thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We'll try to get the next episode up in due time, but bear with us and have a good day.
Yeah, have
Thanks
a good
again.
one. We'll see you next time on Praxis Makes Perfect. Good night.